So, guys, once again, welcome to Bleed Inc. Season One, and this is now where we get to the business end of our program. Excuse the pun, but I really wanted to for us in order for us to get a clear understanding of business, we just need to understand how business actually works, right? So, a business is comprised out of these five things, right? According to masters, according to a masters in business administration, right? So a business involves five things, which is sales, marketing, user experience, and customer service, right? And then the last thing, which is probably the first thing that you actually should come up with, is a value proposition. But all of these things tend to come across at one another at some point, right? So that we need to talk about sales, right? And in sales, we need to understand that there are different types of sales, and which is cost, price, and value, right? So how we want to understand sales is what transaction are we looking at? What type of transaction are we looking at, right? So when we look at cost, is that what are you paying to produce this? So when you're writing a poem or when you're writing a piece of music, how much are you actually paying to produce this? And I'm gonna go into finer detail in this way, right? So how much does it cost you to bleed out those emotions, right? I know it's a funny thing, right? And how much does it cost you to write those emotions? How much does it cost you to pay for the pen? How much does it cost you to pay for the paper? Or how much does it cost you to write on your phone? So these are the type of costs that you incur as a person. That's the first thing. Cost talks about the raw materials, right? The second thing is price. Is that what will customers pay for this from you to cover your costs? So all of those pens that you've bought, all of those papers, all of those cell phones that you're writing your poems on, how much are you willing to price it for in order for the customer to pay for this, right? And the last thing is that value. After this person has paid for this thing, what do they get? Do they get an emotional feeling from you? Do they get a feeling of I'm gratified or I am satisfied with what I've bought using your poetry or using or listening to your work or just seeing the type of person that you are. So value is that what emotions do they walk away from you as a person and your poetry, and what experience are they going to take away from you going beyond what they paid for, right? And the second thing is marketing. Marketing is all about people. And for me, how marketing has been explained to me is that you have to find the water hole where a tribe of people go to drink, right? If there are no people to drink, create your own water hole where people can. PS, everything is marketing, right? So meaning that when you perform, that is a form of marketing, because I feel like that's also advertising. You're advertising your stance and your work and your creativity, right? And the water hole being um, what platforms do people who engage in poetry go to? Do they go to a word and sound? Do they go to a words in my mouth? Do they go to a world of words? Do they go to a hear my voice? So you have to find all of those people, and basically you have to go there and share or let them drink or put up your stall at that waterhole, right? And if you can't find that waterhole, you have to create your own waterfall. So what that means is that where 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 digital, especially now poetry moving into digital spaces, right? You have to now create your own platform digitally and be like, okay, here's my waterhole, but also I need to connect with people who are on Facebook in order to market where the waterhole is, right? So you need to be in a space where it's either you are creating your own or you are going somewhere to create your own, in terms of your own stance and your own bringing people to your product or service, right? And then the third thing is customer service. Customer service for me is all about relationships. And this is what I am doing right now with you guys. I'm creating a service in which both you and I can participate in. So I want to, number one, create a relationship, creating a one-on-one direct communication by asking questions about your offering or my offering, and what do you think and what do they think about what I do. So at the end of this, you will note that I will ask you guys, okay, what do you guys think? Where can I improve? But so far, just start making notes of where can I improve so I can actually help the next group. So here in customer service, we're talking about building a relationship with your customer. And this talks about now acquisition and retention. Or when someone comes to experience you for the first time, you need to be an act of service, because also creativity is an act of service. You don't want to be that type of artist that performs on stage and then being rude to everyone after the show, because something was not right, within you. So I just want to express that customer service is all about the relationship. It's all about the direct one-on-one communication that we have with people. And then user experience, right, which is called UX, right? So this is all about retention. This is where the recommendations come. This is where the 5-star rating comes, which is, as you can see on your illustration board there, on my whiteboard there. I've got 5 stars. So far I think I'm good. I'm doing good. I've got 5 stars. And then this is all about retention, because you guys keep on coming back to these sessions, right? So this is where people must have the excitement to come back, right? Give you 5 stars and highly recommend. This is where now the relationship becomes now a continuous retention, where people keep on coming back, where they experience your work, where they experience your poetry, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't go a day without listening to Khomotso's poem. I can't go a day without listening to Shiho's voice. I can't go a day without listening to Sinomhlobo's presence. I can't go a day without listening to Marsha's soft voice. I can't go a day without listening to Tando's aggressiveness, as young as she is. So I just want you guys to understand that user experience is all about, do people keep on coming back to you, like you guys are right now? You guys keep on coming back to these workshops. I also don't know why, but I hope this is part of the customer experience, right? And this is the bar that I want to drop, right? The bar is, a business does not need an artist, it needs a leader. And we will get into leadership in a few weeks. So I want you guys to understand that whenever you are creating in some shape or format, right, or whenever you are creating, you must be in the creating mode, right? Always be in the creating mode. But also at the same time, when you're doing business, do business. I was having a podcast conversation with a very good friend of mine, Pressure, and he was just like, bro, I wish that I could focus on so many different things also at the same time. He's an independent artist. But he was just like, whenever I'm at the studio, I just focus on being at the studio. Whenever I'm out in the public, I focus on being out in the public. So basically, this is a format of presence, right? Be present when you're doing a business transaction. This is where the money comes in. Be present when you are actually articulating the work. I don't want us to become desperate artists, whereas, oh, I'm just waiting for a gig, and then because you're always waiting for a gig, you can't charge your value added price to that. So usually you find that people charge, like, I don't know, 1,000 rand for a performance, but because they need the money, which is now the artists and the starving artists now activate, they will downsize their artwork into becoming like 500, which is half price. But what you don't consider is the raw materials that you are engaging in, the transport, the feeding of yourself when you get to an event. So it's all of those things that come into a big part, right? So a business does not need an artist, it needs a leader. You need to be in the forefront of your own creativity, and you need to separate yourself from your own creativity. So you need to lead in your own way, in your own finances, while also while at the same time being an artist. And this is the best way I can actually explain this is through illustration. As you can see, I love like illustrations and pictures and all of those other beautiful things, right? So value proposition is the who, right? And what pain points are they trying to figure out? So when people are coming to your event or to your show, what is actually missing in their lives, right? And that actually creates value, which is over and above what they expected through their own expectations, right? So that's what value proposition is. It's like finding out who your customers are, what is actually missing in their lives. Do they miss your work? Do they feel like your work can add value to the point where they will be willing to pay anything to actually have you perform or to have you around, you know? And coming back into just a little bit of business, right? So this is a seller's mentality, right? Where you calculate the material value, which is the raw materials, right? And then you add in the profit. A profit percentage could be like 30 to 40% or 100 if you like, and then that equals the selling price of your product or service, right? So what you would add here is how much will it cost me to get to this event? How much do my own emotions cost me in order to participate in this particular event? And then you add a little bit of profit to that, like 40%, which now talks about which I'll explain later. But this now talks about you're now sustaining your creativity, and then that's where you have a selling price, right? And then this is a buyer's mentality. This is the type of people that engage with you in this, you know. So they take their money, right? And in as much as we hate to do this, but whenever we buy, we actually being emotional with our buying, right? Think about why people are always buying iPhones, the latest iPhones. It's because of an emotional activation that is happening within them. They want to feel like they are a part of something, right? So when people come to a Bleed Inc., when people come to a Shiko show, when people come to a Sinomhlobo show, when people come to a Khomotso show, they must feel like they are a part of something bigger. And then that leads to the purchase price, which is now that's where you can include, as a seller, you can include your value, right? So this is where you get your, which is this is where you can charge your 1,000 rand, which I explained. But then now you can be like, because they have an emotional connection to me, they'll be willing to pay more, so let me charge them 2,000, you know, as an example. And this is another bar in business, right? A feature is a fact. A benefit is how it helps the customer, right? So when we want to understand value, we want to understand how will it actually help the customer benefit using our pain points that we have discovered once we've defined our target market, right? So when you tell people that, oh, I do this, I do that, I do that, right? You actually mentioning a lot of facts, but you also have to have the ability to ask the right questions in terms of how it will help the customer, you know. Poetry is an emotional sport, so I think in most cases we have to sell it on the emotional bits, where people get to be a part of something bigger than them. Poetry is not just about us slamming. It's about documenting the type of times that we're living in right now. And also, if you trace back African literature, we don't have that, right? And then we now have the opportunity to document African literature. So this is one of the benefits of our platform, which is Words in My Mouth. This is an added benefit. Whereas we can say that we've collaborated with Word and Sound, Inibos, and all of those things. Those are just facts. But then how does it benefit the people who are trying to participate in our own business or our own organization, right? And these are the things that I want us to now formally understand from now on, right? Which is, we'll start at the bottom and then we'll go to the top and then we'll go to the right of your screen, right? And then we'll start with cost of goods. Cost of goods involve labor and overhead, right? And it's something that people don't actually talk about, is that what creative labor are you actually putting into your craftsmanship, right? And what overhead charges are you participating in when you go to an event or when you go perform somewhere, you know? Because some people, they charge 1,000 rand, but then they also don't include their own transport. So actually, you spending your own money to go to that own event, right? And then profit, which talks about keeping the business going, right? I want you guys to, whatever you guys charge from now on, charge in a sense that it will keep you going for the next 2 months at least. So if you charge 1,000 right now, I encourage you I encourage you to charge 3, right? So that will keep you going so that you don't become a desperate creative, whereas now you tend to undercharge, right? And then the big part of this exercise is the value to client. We must always add value to a client, which talks about the risk mitigation. Is that what risk are clients participating in when they pay to come to your show? Are they going to walk away there inspired or broken, right? Either or, right? So you also as an artist need to be cognizant of that fact, right? And then this is where the value is created, where now people walk away with such high emotions, and then they come back into the state of the user experience of your product or service. And then now, because you have actively participated in customer service where you've built that relationship, and then now it becomes easier for you to go to them and advertise your work, which is marketing. And then now the transaction, let's say you drop a book, that becomes so much easier. And that is basically the basis of business 101. If we want to understand business as an umbrella, and then next week we'll get into the nitty-gritty stuff, and especially with what you guys are wanting to talk about, right? Which is collaboration, publishing, and all of those things. I will come up with the template of a business model, and then we'll try and package it into your individual personalities, right? And then the last thing I want to say is that when value exceeds the price, a sale / a deal is made, right? So whatever you're offering, right, the value must actually exceed the price, right? So if you charging 1,000 rand and people feel like you should be charging 3, that's when a deal is usually made, right? So where you provide so much value to a client or so much value to a customer to the point where they feel like, oh man, I just want to work with Shiho all the time. I just want to work with Sinomhlobo all the time, right? So that's when a deal is made.